All right, what's up everybody? My name is SunPheonyx and I'm joined once again by TerranLord. Welcome.
Thank you. Another good game, and as to be expected, and like matches we haven't seen on broadcast, but that has happened, behind the scenes.
This is Pride Cup 2021 and it is 5 Roses Rooibos taking on Team Aitch. Still waiting for my virtual cam, but we won't put Peach on blast here. The two teams that are playing. I'd like to take a look at the bracket quickly just to see specifically where Aitch came from. Of course, we won't on this bracket. We don't see the low bracket matches until the semi-finals of the low bracket, but we can see that Aitch did drop 2 Rainbow Renegades in their semi-finals. So coming down to the low bracket to face 5 Roses Rooibos, I think it was a 3-1 was the result there. So finally managed to take someone took a game off Rainbow Renegades, but that upper bracket final is setting up to be a very fascinating matchup, as we, Terran, suggested might come to bear.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm really keen to see how that game is going to play out. Obviously, it's going to be later on in the day, how the kind of team synergy that we've seen from the Enigma tanks and the OG DPS kind of work together to break down that chaos that we do expect from Rainbow Renegades.
Yeah, that is going to be interesting to see, but we'll have to wait a little bit. That'll only be happening at 3 p.m. For now, though, we're going to watch this low bracket matchup. Aitch taking on 5 Roses Rooibos. As you said, Terran, this already has happened in the tournament. This is a Group B matchup, I believe it was, and for that one, it was Aitch who took a 3-1 victory. So a fairly close-ish matchup, but Aitch have been looking pretty strong. So why don't we start by taking a look at their roster here. It will, of course, be Stalker and Brokefolly on the tanks, Lime Oros and Assassin JDB on the DPS, Yami Maybe and Keo on the supports. And spoke about them before, but of course looking towards Stalker to be a big carry for this team, and Assassin as well on the DPS role.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we spoke endlessly of them in their game against Crazy Milky Jelly Shakes, putting on so much pressure. Like, which one do you deal with? Do you deal with Stalker or Assassin? And then they kind of tried to deal with Stalker, then Assassin just popped off. And someone who's like quiet, like behind them is Limeros, putting in a lot of effort on that DPS. And also another one to mention is Brokefolly. You can't get away with as much as you Stalker did without the support of that off tank. it's something that we don't really expect from Brokefolly. More of that support player, not used to the off-tank role, but really shining in their game against Crazy Jelly Shakes.
Yeah, no, and it was an expectantly dominant performance given what we'd seen from those teams up until that point. But Aitch have really been one of the top teams coming out of Group B for sure. So let's take a look now at their opponents, which are going to be 5 Roses Rooibos here, Luckies, and Female Sparrow on. I just realized it could be Female Sparrow. It'd be interesting name. Anyways, JRV and Sarge on the DPS, and Josh, BVN, and Lalcia bringing up that support line. And the key really here was all about JRV in their match against 4E.
JRV, some boys know, professional on that hit scan, but Sargeras as well, I think, came into that game, weren't really sure how he was going to perform. He'd been quote-unquote retired player for a long time. You never really know how a player is going to perform, especially as a DPS, whereas a lot of it comes down to mechanics. But there were quite a few moments, especially on that Hunter pick, as we see him there, kind of carrying the team on his back, saying to JRV, don't worry, I've got these fights. You can take a bit of a break. But as you said, JRV, he's going to be the difference maker if 5 Roses Rooibos are going to win here. But Lucky's no slouch on that tank. We saw quite a bit of play coming out from him. Coming up against Stalker, I think he's going to need to get a lot of work done. Obviously, we're not sure if we're going to see the exact mirrors of like a Ryan versus Ryan, Winston versus Winston, or Orisa versus Orisa, which is a weirder matchup, to say the least. But definitely, he's going to be kind of pivotal part in denying a lot of the space that someone like Assassin might have.
Yep, absolutely. So as we know by now, our first map will be Nepal here, our new map pool for the playoff stage. Is a best of 5, of course. We're gonna have to wait and see what we see here. We know that Luckies and Stalker, well, we know Stalker can play just about anything, but Luckies seem to be leaning quite heavily on the Reinhardt. So I imagine we'll see more brawly compositions coming out of coming out of 5 Roses Rooibos here. You think that's going to be the case, or is this something we don't know about Luckies? Because he's on Re-Ace Legion, eh? Yeah. Play support there, I think.
Yeah, he's a support off tank right now. But when Lucky's used to be on a team back in the day when I was on a team with him, he was a main tank player. And I do remember he did favor the Reinhardt quite a bit, but no slouch on the Winston either. I am expecting to see more Reinhardt play. I think that's a comp that they definitely prefer, especially when you are running with a Lucio 1 trick. You definitely tend to run those more brawl-centric compositions. Maybe we'll see something like that rush comp that 4E were very common in bringing out. Maybe that's something they saw, oh, this is a comp we can try against them, especially something that can punish something like Stalker a lot. The main tank gets punished very hard by a Reaper Sombra.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're going to have to wait and see, and we will see right now. And it is going to be the Ryan Zarya here for them. Sarge going to go onto that Reaper. He had quite a lot of success with that Reaper actually yesterday in the match we saw. JRV on the McCree. We're going to keep eyes on him for sure. And then the opposing side, it's going to be the Pharmacy. Not the most common pick on this particular point here, but we have seen it before. Lime will be on the Hanzo, and then it's the dive tank. So a clash of styles here.
Yeah, and we're definitely looking at how much pressure can JRV put on Assassin. In the last year we saw JellyDoodle, insane hit scan DPS, just didn't have the space to work with. So a lot of going to be on these tanks, giving JRV that space to put a lot of pressure on Assassin.
Yeah, and these tanks are exactly space-making tanks here, the Ryan Zarya. Tend to want to just fight it out as opposed to draw a ton of pressure. Assassin in the sky here. We'll just pump the damage down from above. Lime will look to do the same from a bit of a alpha angle. Setting up a nice crossfire here. She actually has quite a good opportunity to hit some shots, but not able to do so just yet. And the first cap will be coming out of Aitch, and you kind of expect that looking at the comp they have. They're going to be able to take space and kind of hold the position a lot better here. Oh, apparently they're the wrong way around again. As these teams jump in. Stalker will come in here, get aggressive onto the McCree, but the peel is good there. JRV will escape with his life and turn, put a ton of damage in, but Assassin tracks him down, takes him down with a rocket from the sky as Sarge gets rid of Broke. Now onto Lime Oros. Sparrow look to put the pressure on. Nano Barrage so quickly charged here. Both Ana and Assassin doing a great job building it up, and not for the first time. It looks like the team that loses out on the initial cap will end up winning the first team fight anyways. Interesting to see that, and yeah, Aitch will get the first cap here.
And you know that cap initially 30%, not bad. You know, you're not too upset with it if you fight versus Rooibos, but again, Assassin gets picked off by JLV, but gets raised up by Yummy maybe. Credit has got to go to her. He's getting these crucial raises on Assassin, and a lot of these fights he goes down, then he just comes in a threat. That Nano Barrage, just too much to handle.
Yeah, this is an awkward spot to push through here. They're kind of deciding, do we actually want to go? No, and they changed their mind. I think that's the right choice. That was covered too hard, and this is a nice move, actually. They might not be expecting such a quick movement out of our blue team here. JRV gets a little bit aggressive, does get healed up. Very nice work from the Ana, but Assassin over the top finds a double, and I think that's pretty much it here. You just got to back out once again if you're 5 Roses Rooibos, and Aitch's domination continues.
Assassin built up to another barrage, and Nano quite far away, didn't really have much to heal in that fight, but she's just putting in so much work at this point. Once you have control as a Pharah, for that McCree, it's going to be so difficult for you to get any kind of value pushing into them with that small kind of choke. When Stalker goes very aggressive here.
Oh, speaking of aggressive, down from the sky, you just caught it on the left there. Assassin drops in, pops the barrage, and picks off Sarge and Lalcio, and at that point, it's pretty elementary for our blue squad here, decision-making wise. You just got to get out of there as best you can.
The JLV going down was the signal there for Aitch to go really aggressive and punish them for kind of sitting around in a position where they're regrouping, but they're still quite close to the fight.
Ooh, dragons coming through. They actually get in front of the dragons before they spawn. Now Sarge can move back towards his team here, heal up on that Devo, or at least try to, but Assassin over the top. He picks off JRV, he picks off Sarge, and it's pretty tough now for them to do anything. Some of that Zarya is still living for a little bit, but Assassin will eventually track them down. So the triple kill from the Sparrow is really pushing them through this team fight. Just Lalcio now dodging the rockets pretty effectively. Low HP now. The punch, 1 punch, 2 punch, 3 punch. Can he get any more? Does he need to? He'll just go for the rockets instead. Somebody kill this Lucio. He's buying so much time. That's given Sarge space to get in. He will get the Death Blossom off and take down Lime, but he will drop very quickly afterwards, and another rocket barrage right on top of Lucky's head here. But JRV finally gets rid of that Pharah. Now under pressure though from Broke. A good bubble will keep him healthy at least for a little bit longer, but he's low HP. Gonna pop the Deadeye here. Do they have presence on the point? They do for now, but he's so low. He's dropping. He is taken down. Lalcio is still up on the central pillar there. Not yet dealt with as the teammates start to respawn. Finally, Aura 6 matters into her own hands and gets rid of that pesky Lucio. But the ball is in now, and he lost. Oh, punch not quite on the money there for Lime, but gonna be enough to force them off point, and Aitch will take the first point.
Again, we're just looking at these key players, Assassin, Stalker, working so well in tandem together. I mean, as soon as we saw Stalker going for that deep dive, Assassin was there with the barrage. Lime also putting so much pressure on him. That initial pick onto JLV in that fight meant they were able to go aggressive. It's kind of clockwork within the way that the Aitch are playing here, playing around this Pharah so well, playing as soon as she gets the damage done, that's when Stalker goes in.
Yeah.
Even though they gave up 40% on that point, it didn't matter in the end. They got the value that they needed to from the comp that they're running.
Yeah, no, completely agree here. 5 Roses Rooibos now going to change things up. They're going to stick Sarge on the Tracer and JRV now moving over to the Reaper. They feel like they need a little bit of a split and create some chaos. But Assassin, not a Pharah map. This one is really, we never see Pharah, but he's going to go for it here now because it's just working so damn well. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Force him to come up with a solution, and immediately he strikes, taking down JRV, the big carry from this team. Not going to contribute anything else now to this team fight. Diva will try and get on top of him there. Sparrow try and take down that Pharah. He's put under pressure, but meanwhile the backline under so much pressure of their own. Josh will drop here on the Moira. Lime Aura's dropping low on the Hanzo, but not even going to drop. Gets healed up to full now, and Aitch just in complete control here. Nobody's dropped. They just need to cap this point. Just chuck that into the hole there, Assassin. Don't even need it. And that's going to be it for this team fight.
something that it's very interesting to see. Like there, obviously we see JLV on the Reaper gets punished super early. Assassin realizing, okay, there's no real threat. I can go very aggressive, and it allows Yami to kind of play to help her team.
Imoros finds the strike, finds another here. She says, please, can you focus on me a little bit here instead of my teammate? As now Assassin comes in and says, no, my turn to shine, as he gets rid of the Diva mech. Will move super aggressive now. He's backed up by both the Yami Maybe's Mercy and the Diva, of Broke, because JRV finally gets Assassin, but it's a bit of a token kill there, as teamfight's already a long time over.
The res comes out as well, and just it's clinical play that we're seeing from them, stuffing them into choke points, making it so difficult for them to get past this Pharah, get any kind of space for JLV to deal with them. JLV looking for the flank angle, already getting punished.
Oh, and yeah, getting punished, as you say again. JRV does hit the deck here as Assassin keeps the pressure on now to make sure they can't get the flank. So much damage going down. Dragon Strike goes through onto the front line. Not gonna find anything just yet, but buying more and more time.
Yeah, and that's something we want to be seeing. Like these Dragon Strikes so far, not really getting a ton of value. JLV down again, Josh VVN. That's already the fight done.
Oh my goodness, Assassin, relax, please. Sarge gets the pulse bomb kill, but he's anti-healed and under pressure now. Lucky's goes forward. They're getting kills here, but this man is stopping down to the right in Diva's face. He pops the barrage, no respect, and it's probably it once again for our blue team.
A better start to this fight. They did get the picks even though they lost a couple, but Assassin left unchallenged throughout it, making it so difficult for them.
Indeed, and this is also making it difficult here. Stalker batting JRV into a corner. Assassin now unlikely to be contested once again, as Lacio is again that difficulty on the point, but his team just can't take advantage of the space he's making. Sarge will drop, two more soon to follow. Sparrow throws the ultimate into the corner there. That might fall into the hole. No, it doesn't, but it doesn't find any kills either, as overtime ticks down. And you get some kills here. Sorry, my nose is very congested right now. Assassin finds kill to Lucio. Eventually he goes down. Broke will get her opposite number, and the point is now clear. Overtime ticks down, and Aitch take a dominant victory on Nepal.
It's more of the same that we saw from them last series. Kind of wonder, with the way 5 Roses Rooibos is going in the series, that they won that map in the first series. It was obviously something that they figured out in a way to calm the Assassin down. I mean, you just look at how many picks he gets over and over again. You know, hit scan's supposed to counter Pharah, but I from what I can recall, maybe 2 or 3 kills that JLV got into Assassin were almost double digits for Assassin on his count. So it's something they're going to have to look at. Of course, control is a lot easier to once you get that Pharah set up to get a lot of the value. And we are going to move over to King's Row, which is a map that it's kind of a bit more even in terms of, you know, Pharah versus the hit scan. You know, Pharah can get a lot of value getting around the buildings, but once you get more towards second and third point, tends to struggle a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Streets and that third point aren't great. And, you know, you mentioned that JRV did get a couple of kills on Assassin, but every time it felt like they were late or at a point where the team fight had already been won by Aitch and the rest of the squad. So, yeah, it's tough here for JRV, and it's exactly what we saw against Crazy Milk Jelly Shakes. The carry for 5 Roses Rooibos, at least as far as the picture we're painting is concerned, is the hit scan player, but he's not getting the space to work with here, and Assassin is just too unrelenting in the sky. He's really taking matters into his own hands. He's making as much space for his team as they're making for him, and that's something the Pharah does.
Yeah, and it gotta give massive credit, not only just like the pure mechanics from Assassin, his understanding of when to go aggressive, when not, is really good. You know, he sees, okay, there's a Reaper Tracer on the team, the Reaper's also dead. I can play basically free, maybe Tracer and Diva can put pressure on me. But you can see he kind of communicates to his Mercy there. You don't really need to stay with me, go help the team. Let me get the damage done while you make sure that our support stay alive, keep Stalker alive. And that's also another key that I point out is Stalker isn't dying that often.
Yes.
And credit has to go to the supports as well for keeping him alive.
Yeah, and anytime you're playing Pharah, your Mercy's doing as much work as you are, whether you like to admit that or not as a Pharah player. But she is often the focus. The Pharah is not the person getting shot at. Often it's the Mercy, and she has to alter her position accordingly. Now, Yami, maybe that was, wow, Yami might be having a difficult time, an easier time than you'd sometimes expect, just because of how dominant Assassin is being right now. But she still has to watch her positioning, because JRV is probably going to go for her before he tries to kill Assassin. So yeah, great work from the supports there. On the other side though, 5 Roses Rooibos, what do you have to do? You can't put all your eggs into the JRV basket. We tried that, it doesn't work. Do you switch up your composition here and put more pressure onto the guys on the ground with maybe a more aggressive composition?
I think it definitely is something you can look towards, because when you look at this team overall, yes, we give credit to the supports, but they probably are the weakest link to this team, and that's nothing against them. That's just how strong the rest of the team is. So maybe if we look to play this hyper aggressive composition, put so much pressure on the supports that the likes of Stalker and Assassin don't have the capability to help them as much, maybe then is a way to do it. And King's Row is a map that lends to that. You can run the Brawl at such a high level, same with this rush comp with the Winston Diva. So maybe they look towards that, trying to just bully the backline so hard that frontline doesn't have that value.
Yeah, that's a fair point here. The composition makes a lot more sense on King Row. It's a lot easier to execute on King's Row than it is on Nepal. And we've seen in the past that King's Row is the map where sometimes the weaker team looks a lot better. We saw that in our previous series. That was the map that 4E's opponents, who for some reason now are escaping me, the name of that team. PUGs-esque, there we go. Their opponents ended up taking that. That was the only map they took. And it seems like it seems to balance out the relative disparities synergistically and mechanically between the teams. So this might be the best opportunity for 5 Roses to kind of kill that momentum and take it back for themselves.
It's just King's Row. Like, everyone knows King's Row. You know exactly what to expect. You know what to do. You know every nook and cranny of this map if you played it at any time.
Yeah.
And so that's something that you don't have to rely on, communicating to your team as much. I mean, something we always talk about at Overwatch is it's a game of communication. You can't win without knowing what abilities are on cooldown, what positions that you want to be taking. But if everyone inherently understands it, it makes that communication a little bit easier. Means you can focus a bit more on the more niche things that you need to communicate. exactly what you want to be doing.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point. I mean, yesterday you and I and Peach spoke about like MOBA communication versus Overwatch communication. Of course, you're a big piece of shit League player. I'm a big Dota player, superior human being. And it really is a case of often you play your own game in the early mid game, and the communication isn't as critical there. But in Overwatch, you've always got to be talking. The communication is constant and frantic, because you can only see the 1920 by 1080 pixels that your actual resolution can hold. You can't see the whole map like you can in a MOBA. So communication is worth a lot, and that's where you build a lot of synergy. But this is the Pride Cup, of course, a more PUG style tournament. So these teams are not used to playing with each other necessarily, but by this point in the tournament, they will have played 6 games with each other, 5 or 6 games with each other. So they're getting quite used to each other now. And so far, Aitch have come together very nicely.
And it's something you don't really expect, because a lot of these players haven't really been on a team together. I mean, you see the synergy between Stalker and Assassin, players that you would never, I don't think, ever have seen before, because Assassin's not someone who plays PUGs that often, so we never even come across playing with him in that kind of format. So to see the amount of synergy they have together, same with Assassin and Yummy maybe. You always talk about synergy between your pharmacy, being able to communicate. I'm leaving you play safe. I'm with you play a bit more aggressive. The fact that they have that inbuilt synergy over a few maps is really impressive.
Yeah, no, it is very impressive, as you say. It's funny, we talk about Assassin, JDB, the Karen one team, JRV, the Karen the other. They were teammates for a long time, right, on Odyssey. So used to carrying alongside each other, and you look at them playing these environments and how strong they are, and how it's kind of sad that they're not playing anymore, competitively. And you look at Selfless from that map before, maybe even a guy like Neeks, who we haven't seen since the first map. Assassin, JRV, who were the standouts, I think, of I believe it was either Pride Cup last year or Talent Cup the year before. And that's what I love about this tournament and these kinds of tournaments, is that these new players that we've never seen before are kind of shining a light on themselves. They're standing out from the crowd and making us pay attention to them.
Yeah, and also something that you bring up is sometimes these players get overshadowed, but you look at Assassin and JRV together on Odyssey. A lot of the time, everyone was looking towards JRV.
Yeah.
Obviously, Assassin had some standout performances, but primarily you look at the carry, it was JRV. Now, Assassin getting his own kind of limelight by himself against JRV, it's a really nice kind of storyline to see progress. And for some players who get overshadowed in their teams, maybe even getting to flex onto other roles, like we've seen with Tocs and Fluffy, Alvin on that DPS, it's just what Pride Cup is a lot of the time.
Yeah, we kind of get to see the same old players, but in different lights. Of course, we joke about the Tocs DPS, but we don't often get to see these sort of career role players, like the people who have always played tank or always played DPS, get to show us how flexible they can be. And Fluffy and Tocs stand out as a support duo who have been shining on the tanks. Now, of course, Overwatch is a game where if you're, with maybe the exception of DPS, which requires quite a mechanical, a heavy mechanical cost, tank and support, it's about knowing the game. That's where your most impact will come from. And so they are two high-level players who've learned the game, and it kind of shows how you can then translate that into your tank play and be very good at that. And of course, in general, leadership is very important in Overwatch and managing your teammates and ult economy and all that stuff. And it pays dividends when you've got a couple of experienced heads who are used to managing that for their own team.
And something that's also such an important factor you bring up about the DPS is sometimes you see, why this DPS is popping off, but you also got to take into account why is that happening as well. And it's always difficult to really tell which team is communicating better when it is a very close match. Obviously, there are some times where you look at the game between PUGs-esque and Rainbow Renegades from last time, you can kind of see a bit of a disconnect in communication from PUGs-esque. But the most recent series between PUGs-esque and 4E, a lot of communication is going on there. The King's Row map comes to mind, how back and forth it was. You can see how both teams were keeping that communication going, how big those figureheads can be. And I'm really interested to see, exactly as we spoke about JellyDoodle on the previous season, JRV also not your most vocal player, but again, on that DPS role, he's not going to be delegating as much as someone like Stalker would be. So maybe it can kind of come down to someone like Lucky's, who has been around for a long time playing Overwatch, where she took a break for more over a year, but still has that fundamental understanding. How can he bring this team up in terms of that leadership role and take it going forward?
Yeah, but when you put him up alongside Stalker, there's a bit of a gulf in experience at a top level, and also just, I think, general mechanical skills. So it's a tough one for Lucky's if they are relying on him for that, to be that kind of leadership figure. And looking at the squad, he does stand out to me as the player who will be the most vocal. So maybe that's something that this team is lacking, but they have got this far, so working better for them than many other teams here. And then just to look at the rest of the lower bracket here, I won't be able to see it, but I can talk you through it. We did see, obviously, 5 Roses Rooibos come through that lower bracket into this match. They took down one trick, so Grant Hines, Vertigo, Deffect, Trizzle, all of the, no, not Trizzle, sorry, all of those guys, they ended up 3-0ing them, so quite a dominant performance there to punch their ticket into this match. And then Valkyries and Span was a pretty hefty matchup. I mean, they started pretty much on time and they ended at 40 minutes past 11, so that was a 2 hours and 40 minute long series because they had a draw and they went to game 6. But we've got a matchup here now. Finally, Stalker has returned from whatever godforsaken activities he was undertaking, and he is now back into the game. And we will be heading here into King's Row.
I'm expecting to see the brawl coming out, potentially maybe there's still the dive from Aitch leaning heavily on that Pharaoh, but Assassin, he's not just that Pharaoh one trick. put out the Tracer, he can put out Hanzo, a May even. So could be potentially seeing that the kind of May mirror that we got to see a bit of a taste of in our previous series, and I would like to see that again.
Yes, I agree. Actually, I think the May has been underrated throughout the Pride Cup, and I think we were shown by actually the losing team, Babs, to see how strong that can be in our last series. But not going to be seeing that here, at least not just yet. JRB on the Widowmaker, his most iconic hero, I would say, and Assassin on what's quickly becoming his most iconic hero on the other side, the Pharah. When I think Assassin, though, I do think Tracer, so it's fascinating that he's getting a ton of value on this hero. But they're going to go for the Pharah, and then they're going to go for the ground Pharah as well on the side of Aitch in the form of that Junkrat. So Lime will be trying to just maximize the damage. Not going with a more brawly style, going for a dive as well on the defense. So interesting look out of our defensive side. On the attack, though, 5 Roses, Rooibos to come out with an Orisa Zarya. Wouldn't surprise me to see Lucky switch onto that Reinhardt. And then the double hit scan. So double hit scan countering the double projectile for the moment.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind seeing this double hit scan. You just need to be very careful, because if you put like too much resources into trying to kill Assassin, as we've seen before, Stalker can get that value. Lime, no slouch. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they kind of approach this double hit scan setup.
Look there, they stuck the shield up there for Lime, for JRV with the Orisa, and then switched onto the Reinhardt, so just making sure you could peek uncontested there, but didn't end up finding anything. It's up against double hit scan. I kind of think this is good, but Lime immediately finds Lausio and on the back foot, and then Assassin in the sky here. He spotted out JRV, he gets on top of him, doesn't get the kill, but forces him back very effectively, and now taking a super aggressive position here, chasing them all the way back in spawn. Stalker doesn't afraid of anything here, and ends up getting Lausio. Gonna have to back out now, but pretty dominant start to this King's Row map.
The double hit scan not really working out too much. Assassin maybe not getting that value we've seen him. The barrage at the ready only 44%. You look at Stalker and as well as Kira on this Ana building very close to that nano primal.
Yeah, that is true, and that's gonna be another sort of combo breaking, back breaking, neck breaking team fight coming out from Aitch potentially, but not up just for the moment yet as they try to push forward here on the side of 5 versus Rooibos, having to back up now once again. Lausio dropping early, not helping his team too much, but you kind of feel like they have to be a little bit more aggressive. But how do you push into this hero right here? Lime now with her ultimate at the ready. Not gonna have to commit it here as she tries to get the kill onto the Zarya, chasing them out. Now can spam into spawn. I mean, this is a really tough squad to kind of brawl into.
I really like this adaptation actually from Aitch, bringing in this Junkrat, making it so difficult for them to deal with. There's multiple angles of spam. I mean, Kyo's also building up that nano extremely fast, coming into a tire barrage, primal bomb. It's not looking too good so far.
No, not at all. Barrage at the ready, as you mentioned, for Assassin. He's going to jump forward here, trying to get on top of them. The team moving as a great unit, all getting forward aggressively together. Immortality Field doing a ton of work to keep them alive, but Lime finds two more. Make that a triple. Assassin now over the top. I can't see what's going on here, to be honest, but all I know is that Aitch looked uncontested in that team fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the worst rotation coming out of 5 Roses Rooibos. You're trying to take a high ground, get your double hit scan there, but you just stuff yourselves into a choker where yes, you end up dealing with the initial barrage, but then Lime from the other side claps in the damage.
Noon comes out, but so does the Riptide over the top. There is a Immortality Field is going to be big. Yep, triple kill. Immortality Field focused down there by Stalker, and this synergy on this Aitch team is looking absolutely perfect. They pop the Riptire, they see the Immortality Field, Stalker gets aggro onto it, gets rid of it, and the tire pops, and that's 3 players in the bin.
As these maps are going, the synergies look even better from these two teams. So when one DPS comes from one side, the other DPS from the other, and it's just you can't deal with it, especially with Zarya. I mean, maybe you look at swap female spell onto the D.Va, had to put a little bit more pressure, something we discussed in the previous series, but when it comes with the ults.
Oh, Sights comes out, but immediately gets pounced on by the Diva to cancel that out. Stalker gets the kill there. Ultimates from both sides committed here, but at the end of it all, not a single kill coming out of Five Roses Rooibos at the cost of 5 ultimates, because they started that with a Deadeye.
Yeah, it just seems like they don't have the answer. Like they're trying with a disable hit scan, now moving over to Reaper. It feels a bit disjointed at this point, you're not knowing which target is their main priority.
And I mean, who do you prioritize here? Assassin is the obvious answer, but killing a Pharah in the sky with a Mercy at the back is no simple matter. They've got the double hit scan. That's the first kill I believe they've gotten this whole map so far. But they immediately pay with Lucky. Stalker in the mix here. Broke picks up a double. Assassin gets one after that. Sarge on the Reaper here doing his best to bring his team back into this, but he's a lone army here and he's not going to be able to win that one for him. Finally, Lucky switches onto the Winston at the end, but doesn't even get to touch the point before the game ends.
And something we spoke about beforehand was obviously rushing on, trying to get rid of that Ana, put pressure on her, but they're just not allowed to do that. You know, every time they get past the angles that Assassin is creating, there's Lime, right? Like right in the backline, putting the damage down that, you know, we've seen Lulcio get picked off quite often in these team fights. And even when, you know, they eventually get to point, they can't even get to that Ana because she's just backing up. And while that's happening, you've got a Pharaoh Junkrat pumping in so much damage that you just can't walk any more forward. Otherwise, every single player on this team is going to drop.
I'm just looking at the movies here. Hero of the Storm feels like a trademarking nightmare, copyright infringement. But anyways, I suppose Blizzard does own both of those properties. Five Roses Rooibos are in dire straits here. They've finally decided to switch off the more brawly composition here onto the Winston Diva. I like that, but it's a tough one to make work in a pinch. It's the kind of composition that for me requires a ton of synergy not to make look silly. I mean, I cast my mind sort of back to DYG versus Enigma that we saw during RMG, and how it's easy as the Winston just to get blown up completely, but they're gonna have to try and make it work here because the brawl was not working for them. As they push out now on the side of Aitch. Broke, they've instead gone for a more brawly style Assassin on what for me is his most iconic hero. Takes a little bit of damage there. You actually don't want to get in. Oh, Lime on the Doom does get that opening pick onto Lucky. JLV though fires back, counters his former teammate in the form of Assassin on that Tracer. Lime getting aggro, dropping low though as looks like they're going to get rid of the mech here for Female Sparrow and now start to push forward. Assassin back in the fray here. They're trying to put the pressure on. Oh, Stalker picks himself an incidental kill there. Another one onto Josh VBN and well, this might be the shortest King's Row map we've seen in a long time, as the first team fight will be all they need on the side of H to win this one out. Everyone is dead. They get the cap. They only need one tick. Stalker's like, please, I have records to keep here. He's got to get the kills in the spawn, and H will continue their dominant streak here in the lower bracket.
We just see the difference, and like you spoke about how it's going to be so difficult in terms of synergy to try to play this Winston comp. And that's where, you know, H have the advantage. It's not, you know, the mechanical skill from these players. It's just the synergy of when, you know, as soon as Stalker dies in, Assassin can go aggressive with him. You know, it's the disconnect when Lucky's goes in. You know, he gets kind of punished because there's not as much pressure coming out of that Pharah.
Yeah, it's really is. I almost wonder if you just don't stick one of your own teammates here. We did see Sarge on the Pharah, as you said, but just kind of try and run it back into them and force them to come up with a solution to your Pharah. Now, the difficulty is, like we saw with Damien, if the opponent's Pharah is just going to kill your pharmacy every time, then it starts to look a bit silly. But you've got to come up with something desperately here if you're Five Roses or Rooibos. Try and come up with a solution, and I think maybe lean into that chaos a bit more, but it's so hard when it feels like there's a mechanical gulf between these teams, but that's probably not the case. As you've alluded to, it does feel also like the synergy's just better on the side of H, and at the very least, I think what H has done is found something that works for them and have spent the whole Pride Cup sort of sharpening the edge of this composition.
It really is that. It's something that why only these best teams that we always talk about, you know, those who find that composition that works for them earlier always tend to win out. It's not always just based on that mechanical skill. Yes, or every single one of these players is good mechanic, but they're able to produce that while working as a team together. We look at Babs' team, again, a team that you also expect synergy plus mechanical skill, but kind of lacking a little bit sometimes with that synergy. Is now you look at Aitch and they're just picking apart the enemy.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and it's not unbridled aggression either. It's the worst kind of aggression. It's controlled aggression, where Stalker, yes, he's playing super far forward sometimes, but he's not overextending at all. He's never dying first in his team fights, although hard to say from Kings Row when I believe they only got 1 kill in that entire map. I stand to be corrected now. I think 2. Got 1 in the defense and then they got Assassin on the attack. But yeah, 5 Roses Rooibos have to go back to the drawing board here, and they've come up with another brawly style composition. I think Lalcio, one tricking the Lucio, is also kind of pigeonholing their compositional flexibility a little bit.
Yeah, and also like not really being able to kind of run a flex support with a Lucio, with a Mercy, makes it a bit difficult, because like you're running this Lucio Mercy, then your tanks are running out of healing.
Yeah, that's true.
And you can't, as that Mercy, you can't exactly pocket the DPS. Maybe if we can get the JOV onto the McCree or an Ashe with a Mercy pocket, while the team is still being healed up by something like an Honor, it could help a lot more. So I think the Lucio pick here is making it a bit difficult.
Yeah, I actually, that's a very good point. It kind of means you can't pick the Mercy, because Mercy is really not a great tank healer, at least not a primary tank healer. You kind of need the Ana and the, oh my goodness, yeah, the Ana and the Baptiste. But Assassin's just going to get that first pick to charge, and the Fire Strike from Stalker will pick up a kill each, and we might be watching 4 minutes of spawn holding.
Yeah, and it's going to be a rough to see. We see the Bastion coming out, potentially being able to break this, but Lalcio in the backline not really getting too much value.
Not at the moment, yeah. They've come through the side door here, but this spawn camp from Farah is so effective because you can stand above the spawn. It's quite a unique feature of this map, is that you can stand on top of spawn, on the roof of spawn. You can't stand on it, but Farah can sort of hover there and put the pressure in, as we can see here. And she's so covered from below. A huge anti-heal sets up Assassin rather for the rocket barrage. Eventually he will take a nap, and I think a well-deserved one after what he's been displaying throughout the series.
Yeah, a minute down already in the clock, and no ults, like 50%, 82% on your on is the closest, but you have to get through the spawn doors for that nano to be effective. Maybe it's the way they break through, and Stalker shattering into spawn.
I mean, why not, right? Give himself something to do, because he's really been contributing so little to this. Now he gets nanoed up. Nano v nano. Ryan bubbled up. He doesn't even go down, at least not yet. But they're getting a few picks now, and when you've got this kind of aggressive hold, oh, JRV shooting Lime in the back as she tries to get back to her team. But when you're holding this aggressively, losing players really is a much bigger deal. As Assassin, though, he doesn't agree. He says, I'm just going to hang out here. You guys get back whenever you're ready. I'll just keep them in spawn pretty much all by myself, obviously with the help of Yami, maybe. Almost up to another rocket barrage here. And charge coming in from the side. Damage finally. Sarge gets that kill onto Assassin. Unlikely to get raised on the roof there, so that should be it. No, as I say that, the rest does come out. I think his body slides off the roof when you die up there. Now moving forward, a lot of damage. There will be times it to perfection. Gets Stalker as he drops the shield, and now they can clean things up. Both of them down, but that cost them quite a lot.
2 minutes and a half already off the clock. Definitely recontest going to be coming out here, and Assassin climbing up to that barrage. Again, he's just so difficult to deal with. He doesn't end up killing anyone there, but he makes it incredibly difficult for them to even touch point. Like, you saw Lucky's there just sitting there with his shield up. Like, what do I do?
Oh my god, and he just comes out and gets another kill onto Josh VBN. Sarge, though, gets returned onto Lime, and this composition kind of comes alive now once they can get set up on the board like this. Raise onto Lime, though, and she can get aggressive and start putting the damage in, but who needs you when we've got Assassin in the sky, making the space for Stalker to run in there, nano boost it up and get those kills. But this is tough, man. That was your best opportunity, I think, if you're 5 Roses Rooibos, to get the Bastion set up on point and kill them as they come out, but Aitch, too strong for that.
We saw like Stalker is kind of neutralized with this Bastion being set up. He has to play a bit of that shield bot and can't really swing into the Bastion, otherwise dies. But buys enough time for that nano barrage to come out, gets the picks, and Stalker still managing to survive, even though kind of face tanking a Bastion.
I was gonna say hello. He's like not small and invisible, and he's not hiding even in the corner. Shatter comes out, doesn't find anything. JLV has already dropped. Shatter cancelled out. Beautiful play. The Graviton Surge as well sets Lime up for a huge Death Blossom. Stalker picks up another double towards the end of it, and it's looking like it's pretty much over here for 5 Roses Rooibos' attack.
It's rough to see once again. The Bastion seemed to help a little bit more, but the spawn hold was just too strong. They didn't really get the foothold, and they couldn't get an advantage in a fight where you thought maybe they would have it with being on payload.
Yeah, so another full hold here from Aitch. Surprising to see such domination in the Pride Cup, not for the first time, it has to be said, but Aitch are just looking so well put together, but it kind of contextualizes their match against Rainbow Renegades a bit, and Rainbow Renegades beat them 3-1, so that Rainbow Renegade squad is crazy strong right now. So I'm looking forward to see how if 4E can be the one to take the challenge to Rainbow Renegades, given that they also took down Aitch in Group B. That's going to be a key for the future, but well, I suppose this match is not over yet. 5 versus Rooibos seem a bit defeated.
It's at this point where they're kind of, throwing the Hail Mary plays out there, with the Bastion. Potentially a double sniper might help a lot, but at the same time, Assassin is not someone who shies away from playing that with us. So someone who can definitely take it to JLV, and Lime on that Genji. We've seen it already on Route 66 yesterday. Definitely very capable of getting those picks onto something like that Hanzo and that Widow.
Yep, absolutely. Here, just gonna try and lean into the mechanics of their 2 DPS players just a little bit here. But it looks like, okay, yeah, Lime on the Genji, I quite like that. Gonna go for that Nano Blade. Makes a lot of sense here when you've probably just got to win one team fight to win, and they go setting up for a further back defense here, 5 Roses, so they're gonna play it a little bit slower.
Yeah, and Stalker going onto the Roadhog, probably not the most common pick that we see him on, but something I know he does like to play. So interesting to see what he can do, but Assassin already getting that pick onto JLV.
I mean, even in JLV's pool house, Assassin is dominating here. We obviously, you did say Assassin, quite a good sniper in his own right, but we do still expect JLV to get the better, but at least for that first shot, Assassin finds the kill. Lime does go down though, and there's a Mercy in play, but I'm not quite sure where he died, so the res might not be forthcoming at the moment. A Stalker taking a few shots here, dropping low. Assassin, or JRV rather, is back in the mix here, but he's on the Torbjorn now instead, so completely different look to what we've been seeing. We saw Deffect and obviously Nito get big value out of these heroes. You have to wait and see if they can do the same. Stalker dropping low, having to back off here, so under a lot of pressure now as Lucky's holds firm on the point. Stalker nano boosted up now, not a common hero when the whole hog isn't in play. Sarge gets Assassin, so that's pretty good. The hook through onto the Zarya, the anti-heal. They've got him down with the help of the Storm arrows, but Lime in the backline gets rid of the Ana, so it's only the Lucio left for healing, and the Lucio's healing is not really that significant, but almost is up towards the beat now, 95%, so that could be a game changer. But this is a long drawn out team fight. Assassin goes down once again. Sarge is the one stepping up in this team fight. Ultimate coming in, doesn't find, yes it does, gets a double. Brokefolly breaking the stalemate, I think, as Lucky's now low. The beat comes out to try and keep the team alive. Hammer down, stuck in the corner, doesn't even hit the ground. JLV's turret does end up picking Stalker off, but now the backline under pressure. Sarge though strikes again onto Assassin. He's had his number so effectively in this game, but it's just not been enough. The rest of Aitch able to push through now. 5 versus Rooibos on the back. Sarge eventually taken down in the car, will move towards the blue box of victory. Dragon Blade coming out. Sorry, TerranLord, this is still going on. It's been one team fight the goddamn game. Now the Graviton Surge comes out. Lime Auras picked up that double. They just need to clean up this Lucio. Lucio's done a good job of stalling out, but it's not going to be enough on this occasion, and Aitch will take an extremely dominant 3-0 victory.
And once again, we saw them go for a bit more unconventional comp towards the end, as we saw in Route 66 in the game yesterday. But Sarge, big credit to him towards the end there, trying his best to keep his team in there. Every time it looked that they were kind of losing on the fight, Sarge was getting a pick, stemming the flow of the fight, but then Brokefolly really opening it up, allowing so much space, getting the 2 pick with the Diva Bomb, and Lime also in the backline throughout the entire time, always getting a pick, making it almost impossible for 5 versus Rooibos to ever really stabilize.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we were kind of watching the death throes of 5 versus Rooibos, but Sarge, stepped it up. As you said, he was, I think the way you put it is good, kind of stemming the flow there, making sure that every time they lost a player, they were trading one back. But the spawn does favor the attackers there, and eventually broke, as again you said, kind of cracking the wall there, and the sort of team of Aitch just flows through and gets those picks. So Aitch looking dominant here, and we're kind of set up, I think, for a 3-way battle for that top position in the Pride Cup. 4E versus Rainbow Renegades will be our upper bracket match. Up next, let's take a look at the bracket quickly, actually. Just remind ourselves where exactly we are. Our lower bracket semifinals, we can now confirm that it will be Aitch taking on the winner of Span and Babs to see in our low bracket semifinals. But our next match will be that upper bracket finals. Rainbow Renegades taking on Alvin's Eccentric Electric Eels. We've already spoken about that one a little bit, TerranLord, so I'm excited to just see it play out. And I think that could very much set the tone for who's going to win the Pride Cup. But we'll get to that a little bit later, guys. 3 p.m. is go time for that match. Before we go away from this one, though, Terran, who is your player of the match?
It's got to be Assassin once again. I think just
another easy one.
yeah, like the amount of work that he puts in. I mean, just look at Havana and how he's able to survive so long. Obviously, you got to give massive credit to Yami to keeping up doing that, but he's playing his positioning so well. It's such a difficult one. Ever since like all these Farah changes, with the kind of fuel that she has, not as much as we used to see back in the day. So it is a bit harder to stand there, but there were very rarely times where I saw Assassin, on the ground when he didn't need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Assassin, it's really a no-brainer just to go with him here. He really controlled the whole flavor of this game. It was centered around what he could do and how you could deal with him. Obviously, anytime a player is performing like that, the team has to keep up to make it work, and the rest of his team really were playing extremely well. He could only perform that way because his team was able to A, keep up with him, or B, make the space for him. And Stalker, Broke, and the supports were a huge part of that. So credit where it's due. The only person we haven't really mentioned is Lime, but she never really had an opportunity to do much because Assassin was just getting all the limelight. So no pun intended. But hopefully going forward, she'll be able to show stuff a bit more. Not hoping that Assassin plays worse, but that their opponents at least, force something a bit more out of Aitch, because they looked completely unchallenged there. But guys, that's going to be it for us right now. We'll be back again at 3 p.m. for the upper bracket finals, which will be Rainbow Renegades taking on Alvin's Eccentric Electric Eels.